The German DTM was the most popular motorsport in Europe during the 1980s, and the Italians outpaced them in their own sport. DTM adopted Group A regulations, and some of the most awesome touring race cars were built at the time. The FIA created a new set of rules for the Touring Championship, which allowed Alfa to create one of the most iconic and legendary Alfa Romeos ever that, after all, did not even use an Italian engine. The Class 1 touring car rules mandated the use of a mass-produced engine, specifying the original bang angle and bore distances to be used. Additionally, the rules allowed for a maximum of 6 cylinders, an engine displacement of 2.5 liters, and 4 valves per cylinder. The maximum allowable engine revolutions were set at 12,000 RPM. An interesting fact is that the engine used did not have to be identical to the one in the specific road car on which the race car was based, but we will delve into that later. These rules became relevant starting from 1993, and they also permitted the use of all-wheel drive, electronic braking aids such as traction control and ABS, as well as electronically controlled differentials. Modifications to aerodynamics were allowed only from the wheel center line downwards, beyond the rear wing, which is why these cars featured deep skirts to cram as much of the aero engineering as possible. While the previous DTM era was dominated by German cars, in the very first season of the new rules in 1983, the Italians achieved an overall victory. This victory marked the only championship win, with a total of 38 race wins throughout the championship's existence, and the team created one of the most recognizable touring cars ever. The engineering team of Alfa Corse opted for a relatively new Alfa Romeo 155, and made substantial modifications to the original car. They abandoned the front-wheel drive system and the transversely mounted engine and the four-cylinder engine used in the ordinary versions. Instead, they selected a longitudinally mounted V6 engine paired with a 6-speed sequential gearbox and the 35-65 split Delta HF four-wheel drive system. The power unit was derived from the original booster design, sharing the 60-degree V-angle with 133mm bore spacings. Achieving the 2.5-liter displacement was achieved using different bore and stroke dimensions. The booster engine wasn't the most ideal choice for this purpose, as it was initially designed for large displacement, and engineers knew their race engine would benefit from smaller dimensions. Nevertheless, it featured lightweight internals, H-beam connecting rods and titanium intake valves. With a high compression ratio of 12.5 to 1, the engine produced an impressive 420 horsepower. In 1993, on paper, the engine may have appeared unchanged, but in reality, the engineering team made significant modifications. The materials, the angle and bore distances remained the same, but the valve train was relocated to the rear. This might seem strange, but the clever minds at the Ilmo racing team in Indy had employed a similar strategy in 1984. The reason behind this move is that when using a gear drivetrain, this setup is more sensitive to vibrations. Interestingly, the flywheel side only experienced about a third of the vibrations. While the power output remained consistent, these modifications significantly enhanced the engine's reliability. During the middle of that year, a resonance issue was discovered with valve springs, which was subsequently addressed with a pneumatic valve closing system. The engine's dimensions were slightly reduced and its weight was reduced by 7 kilograms. Additionally, a twin injector per cylinder system was considered, but ultimately abandoned due to a lack of improved efficiency. In the following year, the factory achieved further marginal weight savings and reduced the engine's dimensions. While still using the 60-degree engine, Changes were made to the cylinder configuration with 1mm wider bores, making the engine more responsive to high revs. It was also fitted with a common drill crankshaft. The addition of twin-spark technology and extra head studs for increased clamping force occurred midway through the season. These modifications resulted in a power increase from 440 to 450 horsepower at 11,800 RPM. The team was well aware that they were lagging behind the competition and needed to take action. In 1996, the engineering team made the decision to replace the entire engine block with a new one. They recognized that the 90-degree engine would offer distinct advantages. It had a lower profile, providing more space for intake. The team, led by Sergio Limone, chose to adopt the PRV 90-degree V6 engine, which had been developed by Peugeot, Renault, Volvo, and was also utilized in the Lancia Thema at the time. The leadership at Fiat was not enthusiastic about the idea of using a non-Italian engine. They even considered using a Montreal V8 unit with 2 cylinders removed, but due to the bore spacing of just 97mm, it wouldn't rev as high, considering the bore limitations. Nonetheless, the Montreal engine was reportedly homologated primarily to appease management and divert press attention. The entire process caused a delay in the development of the 1996 engine, which eventually led to the adaptation of the PRV engine for DTM racing. This modification not only allowed for a more efficient intake, but also involved the use of a short crankshaft, reducing the overall length of the engine by 7 cm. The new V6 had wider bores, measuring 98mm, and the engine weighed just 96 kg. This unit, designated as the 690RC, was both lighter and more powerful, generating 490 horsepower at 12,000 RPM. Thanks to these improvements, the car secured 8 victories in 1996 and achieved an overall 3rd place, driven by former F1 pilot Alessandro Nannini. Initially, the Alfa Romeo 155 Ti V6 shared many features with the road car, but as regulations evolved, the suspension, engine and various components were customized and optimized for top-tier racing performance. After later rule changes, the car was equipped with double wishbone suspension with onboard components all around, including adjustable sway bars accessible through levers next to the driver's seat. Weighing just 1,060 kilograms, it demonstrated impressive speed with a 0 to 100 km per time of only 2.5 seconds and a top speed exceeding 300 km per hour. The Alfa Romeo 155 Ti V6 represented a significant achievement for the Italians as it challenged and competed fiercely against the Germans in their own sport. Interestingly, these cars occasionally appear in auctions, and in 2021, a refurbished PRV-powered 005 chassis with 350,000 euros in invoices sold for nearly 800,000 euros.